So when I think about faith, and I think about just the definition that Hebrews gives faith, it is the substance of things hoped for. So what exactly are you hoping for? What do you hope for? Why do we do what we do? Because we do it because we hope to one day change our situation. We hope to one day change our circumstance. We hope to one day change other people's lives, or at least be part of that impact to change their outlook on life, man. We look at the substance of the things that we hope for, and yet the other part of the definition is the evidence of the things that we don't see yet. So things like in the unseen world, things that are happening behind the scene. You don't necessarily see the seed germinate once you put it in the ground, but that's what's happening. And sooner or later, you start to see those results come out of the ground. You start to see those things be born, and you start to see the things that you hope for start to produce evidence well before you can actually see something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it takes patience, it takes work. Um, and it's when you're waiting for something to happen, when you're praying for something, you need to realize that there's a waiting season. You may not get the answer right away, and it's okay not to get an answer right away, but that's what the having faith and walking in faith is.
Faith builds that ability for us to develop that legacy to go ahead and pass down, man. Because sometimes in one of our previous episodes, we talked about legacy or legendary. If you want to check that out, just go back a couple episodes and check it out. But we talk about this legacy because that is far more important than just the monetary side, man. We're passing down wisdom. We're passing down something greater than just a natural inheritance, man. We're passing down wisdom, morality,
Work ethic.
work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We're passing down, we're instilling values.
Mm-hmm.
We're putting all kinds of stuff into the people that we invest in, to our children, to our business partners. And we just want to be able to leave a long lasting legacy with the people that we get to interact with, because you can't interact with everybody.
And it can be, like you said, your kids. It could be someone close, your family member or whoever. Start there, and then once you have the business set, you can instill that. I think the culture that you create in the workspace, obviously, with the godly principles, those are what's going to help you propel. That's what's going to help you succeed in your business. Because if you're just having, what is it, a legendary moment, a legendary business, or movement, it's going to be temporary. You're not going to see the fruit later on. You may see it temporary. You see it now, and it might fizzle out. But if you're creating something like legacy, excuse me, you will see it later on. And like we said, it's going to take patience. It's like you said with the seed, you don't see it happening, but then it grows, and there it is. There's the little bud, and then you see that happening, and later on, you may never even see it happening. That's crazy to think about too. I'm sure that the disciples, when they were spreading the gospel, they went to places, they saw thousands of people getting saved and everything, but I wonder if they even thought what it would look like in the future. How they left that legacy, how they left that that print and for the future, for what we have now.
I often think about, would they even be proud of what the church has become today? Would they be like, man, satisfied that the fact that they got to start that, satisfied at the fact that we've taken it so much further. Jesus said we'll be more than conquerors. Greater things will we do. And so I think about what they gave up all of it. And modern day believers, man, we only give up, we give up some of it. We don't give up all of it. Despite what you heard, most believers, especially in Western society, Western civilization, we give up a portion of our life with the expectation of a fullness of God. And the
So
trade-off is unbalanced and in a really skewed way.
So that brings me to this. Faith isn't just about what you believe in. It's about what you pass down, what you build in the succession of life.
That's so dope. I love that explanation, because a lot of believers and a lot of business folks, man, like we get to that place where we have faith in something, and then it's the execution part that we don't really know what to do with. And it is bigger than just believing. It's the doing that allows us to see those parts and pieces of evidence that we can't see yet, and that, when I think of God's word, and I consistently revert back to 1 Timothy 5:8, and 1 Timothy 5:8 just goes into, if a man does not provide for his own household, he is denied the faith and he's worse than an infidel or unbeliever. I often think about what it says in Proverbs, that a wise man will leave an inheritance to his children's children. And I think of that inheritance as being a step up. I think of an inheritance as being a platform to give to future generations for them to build on. I think of a platform that allows them to have the foundation set before them so they can go ahead and build on top of that foundation that won't move, that won't waver, that will endure the storms, man, and just be able to continue on. I know many of you guys out there, man, if you had a foundation laid for you before you got into your adulthood, before you got into that motivation mindset, that growth mindset, I know that if you already had a foundation laid out before you, you probably be further, be a little bit more ahead of the game. But many of us, we got stuck with, just getting what you got. You get what you get and you don't get upset. That's what the kids say. And man, look, you got to start from scratch. There's nothing wrong with that. Humble beginnings provide a useful arena to lean on God's dependence like we never have before. But when you have something where those foundations, those morals, those principles, those values are instilled in you from when you're young, you understand that the mindset has been founded on the principles that you then later on get to apply and amplify when you become of an adult, and your creativity kicks in to where you can take it to a whole nother level than what you got when you first received it.
So, Angel, let me ask you, do you think that God is offended by the planning, by the saving, investing? Like, if you could answer for him.
Ooh. Well, I'd answer for me.
I mean, on how you view it. Do you think it's a bad thing? Because some people, believers, I think, get afraid of like, I don't know, investing, business. Like, I feel like it's something touchy, like you're not supposed to or something.
Modern day believers can fall in one of two categories. Either they're doers and producers, or they're consumers. And the producers typically are not afraid of taking the risk. The consumers are the ones who are more apt to receiving the information, allowing that information to lodge into their mind and heart, and regurgitating that when someone else needs the encouragement, but not necessarily applying it to themselves in a way where they then become the producers. They're like reproducers. I can kind of go a little bit further with that. When to answer your question, like, does God get offended with our planning phase? Does he look at us and say, hey, aren't you relying on me? Aren't you looking at me? Aren't you focused on what I'm doing, what I can have? Yeah, God is doing that. He's looking to see, will you acknowledge me in all your ways, or will you lean onto your own understanding? Will you ask me for all things in my name? Will you abide in me? Will you put me first? Will you worship me? Will I be of more importance to you than the thing that you're asking for? Will you have good planning with no God that may or may not lead to prosperity? Or will you have good planning that will lead to prosperity based upon the heart of a servant, based upon the heart of somebody who sees a problem, who's inquisitive, and can utilize the creativity that God gave us in order to reach something for someone in the marketplace, to be able to give them a solution to their problem. It's all about service. It's all about how we react to an action. It's about what God has given us. How do we utilize it? How do we multiply it instead of just sitting on it and waiting for God to... God ain't going to sprinkle no magic dust all over you and just automatically implode your lifestyle with all kinds of opportunities. That's not how this works. Mm-hmm. This works by people getting up, people getting out, people getting uncomfortable, people taking risk, people understanding that in order for me to get somewhere, I got to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. In order for me to achieve something, I got to believe something. In order for me to reach for something, I got to be able to teach something. I got to be able to do the thing that needs to be done. Otherwise, I just sit here dormant, a vessel that just sits on the dockside, never goes out into open waters, never goes out and sees what the seas are actually like, doesn't experience the power of the wave, doesn't experience the power of the living water, and just stays comfortable, stays complacent, stays in a mindset where they're continuously repeat. And then they wonder, did I live up to my full potential? Or did I take the talent and bury it because I knew that God was a God of wrath or a jealous God? And I didn't want to idolize the thing I was called to do. So I was more afraid of it than the God who I serve equipping me to do it for his glory.
And I think sometimes, and I've, excuse me, I've heard it from people where it's like, oh, you just got to have faith. You got to walk by faith. And they feel like they just got to sit there and wait. Like, I'm just going to pray and just sit down and wait instead of just moving and doing whatever step needs to be taken next for the process. Because yes, God will give you the ability to get things done, but you also have to do some work. And what is that work? That's where your prayer comes. That's where you ask God to show you what it is. And, that there's, for example, okay, so I want to start a business, and I ask God, like, help me be able to get things done. I'm not just going to sit there. I'm going to do research. I'm going to hop on my computer, my phone, whatever it takes, and do the research. And then I'm going to take it upon myself to go on the website and input the information in to get, how do I do the LLC? Might be the first step. So if I just sit there and wait for God to do the next step, he's not going to just jump on the computer for me and do it. That's what I mean by doing the work. Like, you can pray for something and he'll give you he'll put people in front of you. He'll put, just that idea in your head. Like, he'll speak to you, but you got to have that connection with him. You got to have the prayer life, and you got to read the word. So that you got to make the moves too.
I love the fact that you have explained it's the doing part. God gives us wisdom. He created us in his image. And so we get to create. We are the only creatures on the face of the earth that gets to reflect his image, that gets to bear his image. That's a privilege. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's such a privilege to know that there's no one else like us. There's no one else like you. There's no one else like me. I'm one of one. When we look at how important it is to step outside that comfort zone and the fruit that it produces, when we look at the lifestyle that you deny in order to achieve something that is part of your destiny, to be a reflection of God's goodness and his abundance. And, you know, I have a hard time really ministering to people, preaching about a good God and living a hellish life, living a life that is unfruitful, living a life that I can't even, I have no evidence that I've been able to provide for my family. I have no evidence that I'm sustaining and building something that I'm ready to pass down onto generations. I have no evidence, but yet there's this false hope in me that says, oh, I believe in the God of the universe. I believe in the God of Jacob, Abraham, and Isaac. I said it backwards. I said it wrong. I believe in the God of Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac. But yet I have no application. I have a little tiny application. I got a whole lot of faith, but I got no application.
Mm-hmm.
What is that saying? That's saying, like, you know, I think of an applicator. I think of a dirty car. I think of a big bucket of soap and water, wash the car, dry the car, and I got this brand new tub of wax. And I know that this car can be showroom ready if I just apply the wax and wax on and I wax off and then I buff it and I'm putting some elbow grease into it. And then after I'm done, I'm polishing it and I'm wiping down all the excess, the stuff I don't need anymore. And I understand that I got to keep going until I can see my reflection.
Mm-hmm. That's not to get it confused where when you fall down and, you know, like we're human at the end of the day. We're going to mess up. We're going to, but that's not to say that you need to stay down and not get up and keep trying, because I don't want people to get confused and say, oh, well, you know, just because I'm a sinner and I mess up, then I just gotta give up. No, you don't give up. You keep going, you keep pushing, and you see God changing you. We actually just discussed this morning with the kids in our devotional, how he will circumcise our heart. Because it's so funny, because we used to see it all the time, like, oh, follow your heart. God knows my heart. We hear it all the time. It's the most wicked thing in us. So
That's the word.
So we're going to fall down, but you can't stay down, and you got to apply. You have to just push through and apply. Sorry for interrupting you, but I just needed to.
No, you talked about intentional responsibility, which I believe is very important. It's a good point. There is an intentional responsibility that we're held accountable for. It's one thing to go ahead out on faith and to start something and to take the risk, but the follow through. There's many people who have a lot of faith, no application. But then let's talk about some other folks, not like, you know, in a bad way, but just categorizing people. But let's talk about individuals who have faith to do it, application to start it, but very little follow through to endure.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about how the endurance is also part of the evidence of things not yet seen.
Mm-hmm.
The not yet seen is equivalent to understanding that you gotta keep doing this, you gotta keep going, you gotta keep growing, you gotta keep showing, you gotta keep valid in your stance in order for you to start to see something grow.
Mhm.
Over time, it compounds. Jesus was one person that took 2, that took 3, that took 12, that took 500, that took 1,000, that set the world on fire for the past 2,000 years and has continued to disciple. It's a snowball effect. It starts off small, but eventually it starts to compound. And the same thing, we talk about a man not being able to provide. We talk about, what does that mean? Paul tied that provision directly to faith. You got to believe that you can. For the men out there, listen, if you've been verbally abused, if you've been continuously put down, not only by other male figures in your life, man, but even the women out there, if you've been put down and saying that you ain't never gonna be nobody, you ain't never gonna do nothing, you ain't never gonna have nothing, you can continue to allow those lies to fall root in your heart, or you can ask God to go ahead and give you a new heart, change that heart, circumcise that heart, man. Like Rosa and I talked about with the kids, man. Circumcise that heart. Ask God to cut all of that wound off, man. Allow God to come in, refurbish that heart, regenerate that heart, and start chasing after Him so He can go ahead and give you that desire within the heart to convince the mind that you can do this, that you will do this, that you are of value, that you are higher than what you currently are, and that this is not the end. You don't have a finish line in front of your feet, man. Keep it going, man. Keep pushing, keep thriving, keep striving. Don't let the people stop you. The only thing that needs to stop you is the grave. Once that grave hits, you're done, son. You can't move on anymore. You gotta call it quits at that point. Throw in the towel and say, Lord, did I do enough? Did I believe you enough? Did I have enough faith? Did I apply it enough? Did I try to multiply? Or did I just shrivel up and die? What did I do? Mm-hmm. Belief it takes root, man. Paul ties that provision to us directly with faith. And it's not an act of like willingness, but the unwillingness is a complete denial of who God is and who you are in God. And so either you're doing it or you're not. And if you're doing it, keep doing it. And if you're not doing it, slap yourself in the face and start doing it. God. That's it.
Sorry. What's so aggressive?
Maybe that's what they need. I said, Lord, give me utterance. That's what came out. I don't know.
Okay, sorry.
It's not about being perfect, man. Rosa touched base on it, man. It's not about being perfect. It's about just honoring God, knowing that the stewardship is what we're responsible for, man. I've come to realize that stewardship is the model of our life in Christ. We get to steward everything. Mm-hmm. Our time, our love, our generosity, our patience, our expectation, our money, our talents, our gifts. Everything revolves around stewardship. Like God says, I gave you me. How you going to handle it? Mm-hmm. What you going to do with it?
Yeah.
You're going to sit on it? You're going to just act like I didn't just do that? Oh, so now I got to make the rock cry out because you're not willing to exercise the gift and talent I put in you. Now I got to go ahead and make the rock do it. It's kind of embarrassing to know that He's given you all of this and you're afraid of what? What? I bet you're going to die. You might as well try before you die. You might as well move. Ask the questions. Get around people who are like-minded. Get around folks who have done it. They're not going to look at you like, why are you here? They're going to look at you, come here. Let me help you. Let me show you. Most entrepreneurs love to create other entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. They really do. And most fixed mindset people love to be around fixed mindset people. No, don't go. You'll outgrow this relationship that ain't going nowhere.
Mm.
Stay with me. I'm comfortable. Here, let's have another do nothing.
What is it? The Misery Loves Company?
Loves it. They're infatuated with it.
Yeah. But going back to stewardship, like you touched on being good stewards of our time. That includes all that time you're spending. I'm not saying that we're spending scrolling. There's times that I'll start in a research, or let me check the emails, or let me do this, and then find myself like scrolling onto I don't know, Facebook or whatever it is, and then get stuck there for a while. So that's wasting God's time. Instead of, I don't know, following up on a phone call with someone, or, just building somebody up, I'm just wasting it on me, my pleasure of scrolling, So, and then the being a good steward of your money, that we can waste money on so many different things, unnecessary things. So
completely unnecessary.
Yeah.
You remember that time we stopped tithing?
Yeah.
Because we were broke?
Yep.
Yo, let me tell you something. When you stop, and you might have your own perspective on tithing. I'm not here to argue that or debate that. Man, that's between you and God. Bottom line, we can go scripture for scripture. The one that puts the nail in the coffin, hopefully not your coffin, is it's got to be agreed upon between you and God. Mm-hmm. And if it's 10%, it's 10%, man. But it should be more. It should be everything. You should be able to give up everything. Different episode. But the time that we convinced ourselves that we were such in a financial rut, such in a financial bind because of inappropriate stewardship, misspending, we stopped. I went up to my pastor and I said, hey, look, I'm going to kind of hold back on giving for a little while because we're in a financial mess and I need to catch up on some bills. And I was transparent about it, man. I told him, I said, look, we this is going to be a few weeks. And so, we stopped. We held back on our generosity, our giving. We held back on a lot of things. And a few weeks went by and we were caught up and ready to get back on it. And you know what we did?
We didn't tithe.
We held back again. Mm-hmm. We held back again, man. And I promise you, one of the lessons I learned in that time is hold back on your giving and watch how expensive everything else gets.
And it sure did. It felt like it just, and it probably wasn't, probably nothing changed, like really changed, but it felt like it because there was no, you pay all your bills and stuff like that, and then you have the leftover and then you save. There was none of that. Mm-mm. And nothing had changed. So what the heck was it? It's holding back.
Things got more expensive. Other expenses came that, we didn't know where it came from. And we saw that the money in our pocket burned a hole so big that no matter what we put in there was going to hold. Mm-hmm. And it just kept going and going and going and going. And so we realized, man, I wonder if this is tied directly to our ability to give and then our restraint from not giving. And once we got back on track, we started to see the incremental progress. And okay, God was like, cool, you learned your lesson. You ready for more? Stay obedient. Stick with me. I'm going to show you that you're ready for increase because your mindset, you didn't allow the temporary circumstance to have a long life, a long lasting impact on how you perceive me. Mm-hmm. You went in and you studied my word and you were like, all right, test me.
I was just
says the Lord. Me, yep. Test me, try me. Yep. And, we tried them and we started to look at life get progressively better when it came to what we were having access to. Mm-hmm. Just hindsight, man, we don't sit here and eat like steak and lobster, but there hasn't been a day where we've gone hungry. we're not sitting here in a beautiful mansion, but the house has a solid roof, and it's warm inside in the winter and it's cool inside in the summer.
And not only that, we're able to bless others. That's the part that I absolutely love. Because like I said before, I love helping people, and then just to be able the overflow,
Yeah,
to be able to bless others, I love that. That's my favorite part.
absolutely. In the beginning, you start taking this faith and you start putting it in action, and you start to see the results. And what does that do? That increases your faith to go ahead and do more, to be able to expand more. There's more trials that await that. Let me put a pin in that. There is more, because God doesn't ever expect you and I to look at the situation, look at the circumstance, and say, Lord, I did everything you wanted me to do, and so I should be able to arrive at a destination and coast for the rest of the way. No, you're called to get progressively better. You're called to continuously increase, continue to use your creativity, continue to use the wisdom and knowledge that you've learned from the word, the application of the principles, and watching the promises come to fruition. And you start to understand that there's a level that you're at that you work so hard to be at. But then once you get to that level that you work so hard to be at, and when you think that this is time to go ahead and chill and relax, God reveals to you that there's a greater calling, and he equips you to know that I got you here. You trained for this. You're now here. And if you plateau, well, then you're not living up to your full potential. So let me continue to be your God and show you that there's a higher level, there's a higher platform to go ahead and reach. And you start taking the lessons, and all of the planning, all of the relationships, all of the downfalls, the failures. You start looking back at where you came from, understanding where you are, and you understand that those things propel you to reignite to get to another level. And then when you get to that level, you do it again. And it becomes harder and harder and harder. But the reward becomes greater and greater and greater. And it becomes more worth it, definitely worth it, until you get to the place where you realize he is worthy of it all. I don't sing, so. Hey, from the bottom of our heart, man, we just want to say thank you for watching. We really appreciate you guys tuning in with us. We want to continue to make more content, so if you could do us a favor, help us with the algorithm.
Don't forget to hit the like button, to subscribe, and to share. Bye.
Bye.